Welcome to Unselfishly Me, a podcast all about self-love, self-care, and everything in between. I'm Jane, a personal trainer with a focus on self-love. Each week, we'll be chatting to someone about their self-love journey, how long it took, and what it took to get there. Today, I am talking to a repeat guest. Yes, Gaelyn is back to talk all about her self-love journey, but this time to talk about her gastric bypass surgery, which is super interesting. And I've watched it all unfold on Instagram, and I did know that she was planning on having the surgery. We did have a chat before. So it's been so interesting for me to watch and support from a distance, but to chat to her, knowing how she was feeling and the complications that came with it. So she's very gracefully been sharing her journey, hoping to help and inspire others and to give a heads up to the surgery, and so that people can be well informed and know the pros and the cons and the health benefits and the implications that can go wrong as well, which I think is really noble of her. She didn't have to share her journey. She didn't have to share the ups and downs, but she's been so good at sharing. And it's been really eye-opening for myself and a lot of other people. So I really wanted to dig deep and to see how she's feeling and to let her inspire all of you as well. Yay! So welcome, Gaelyn. Tell us again a little bit about yourself.
So thank you very much for having me. I am 37. I've got 3 kids. I am married. I live in Durban. I've lived in a few places around Africa, but I've been back in Durban since the middle of COVID. I have struggled with my weight since puberty. I was diagnosed with binge eating disorder in grade 7. And literally from that moment throughout my life, it's been a cycle of yo-yo dieting, periods of loving myself more, periods of loving myself less, periods of feeling more worth loving, and periods of less. And eventually it just reached a point where my health started to be affected, and I knew that if I didn't do something, I wouldn't live long enough to see my children grow up and have grandchildren. And so that was the catalyst to finally make that first appointment with the bariatric surgeon. And in February 2022, I had gastric bypass surgery.
And it wasn't a decision that you took lightly, before people start saying that. We'll go into all of that.
Yeah.
But it was, I mean, I knew because we'd been chatting in November. I think it was November we were chatting. And I think at first I was like, wow, that's quite drastic, because it is like, it's major surgery. And I was like, wow, but knowing you and knowing where you've come from and how you've gone through that, you've worked out, you've done CrossFit, you've done triathlons, like you've done all these things. You've gone through these periods, you've had the Instagram accounts where you are like super into the fitness and training and things like that, and then having it for the accountability, like you've done all that. So it's like, we can all look at you from the outside and say, oh, but you could have just exercised for a year and eaten better. But if it's in your mind is so powerful. And if your mind is thinking a certain way about food and about binging and all these things, like nothing's going to change that. Like you cannot just change your mind. Like, just step out of it.
Exactly. It's something that I was actually chatting to somebody about this week. She's signed up. She's been for her first appointments. She's having her surgery in January at the end of this month. And I was chatting to her about it, and I said, you wouldn't tell a person who was diagnosed with cancer to think positively and pray and eat less sugar because sugar is bad for cancer, or you would say to them, you have a medical problem. It's not going to go anywhere without medical treatment.
Yeah.
And I say obesity, and I use the term loosely because I know that it's very controversial, but for the sake of, fatness, overweight, obesity, the point of carrying as much weight as it's making you sick, that's a medical problem. If you were able to think your way out of it, or therapy your way out of it, or exercise your way out of it, you would have done it years ago. If in my 37 years of life, I haven't managed to figure it out on my own, why do I think this time will be different? Or this time something will click or make sense suddenly in my head? It doesn't work like that, because it is a medical problem. And so when I started seeing it like that, I was able to accept that it wasn't just a case of me being a failure. When you've dieted and lost weight and regained and lost and regained 40 times in your life, you walk around feeling like the ultimate failure, because that's all you've ever done. You've got a 100% failure rate. And the way my surgeon explained it is that there's been studies that are done that have proven that 3% of people who are carrying a big amount of excess weight, so I'm not talking like 10 kgs overweight, but who are properly unhealthily, it's affecting their health, 3% of those people are able to lose weight and keep it off on their own. And he said, if you look around in your life, how many people do you know or know of who have done it? I don't know one. I don't know one. And so when he said that, I was just like, okay, it's not just me. It's not just me. And I'm not a failure. It's not a case of I don't have willpower. As you said, I've done sport competitively. I have willpower. I have extreme willpower. It's not about that. It's not about self-control. It's not about, I like to go out and party and I've got no self-control because I'm throwing myself around or leaping up on the tables and dancing like Coyote Ugly. That's self-control. You know what I mean? Self-control with eating and a binge eating disorder. It's not about that at all. And when I accepted that, I knew that this was the path that I needed to take. It was a ticking time bomb. And I knew that if I wanted to save my life, I needed to do something drastic. And yeah, it was really hard telling people about it because as you said it, God, that's drastic. And I had the same response from every person I told. And I mean, I don't fault them for that. I felt the same way when I spoke to the surgeon and when I made the decision for myself. So it's one of the reasons why, and one of the reasons why I chose to speak to you about it early on was because your whole life is about love and self-love. How do I do the surgery because I love myself? How do I not make this about self-hate? And we spoke about it a lot. And you, from the get-go, were like, tell me more, explain it to me. How does it work? What do you do? And in speaking it through with you, it all just clicked into place. And you were like, but this is because you love yourself. That's why you're doing it. And so it just gave you such a sense of peace. And that's why I said from the get-go, I'm going to tell everyone about it.
Yeah.
Everybody must know.
Even though people didn't want you to.
No, a lot of people didn't want me to. I mean, my family were very nervous because in your mind, bariatric surgery is what the people on my 600-pound life have. I didn't weigh 600 pounds. I wasn't fat enough. It wasn't bad enough. And the risks are so great. And, you hear the horror stories. But actually, statistically in South Africa, there's a very low complication rate because our surgeons are so well managed and so governed. And our health system is so different. So our experience of bariatric surgery is America.
Yeah.
And random countries where it's not governed and it's not managed and you don't get the holistic approach, whereas here you do get that. And I knew that I wanted to use my story to educate people about it because number one, and I'll never forget, there's a woman who I had dieted with years ago. And she disappeared off social media for a year. And all of a sudden she came back with this beautiful, glamorous, thin photo. And I was like, oh my gosh, you look amazing. And I messaged her and I said, you look incredible. How did you do it? I'm curious because for all those years we struggled together and you seem to have figured it out. And she said, well, nobody knows this, but I had bariatric surgery. I was like, but why does nobody know? She goes, oh no, it's my shameful, dirty secret nobody can know. I just thought, why? Because by not telling people, someone like me would look at her and say, well, she figured it out. She did it. She overcame her binge eating. She learned how to eat intuitively. She learned how to take care of herself. What's wrong with me? Why am I dead again? And I didn't want to be the reason anybody felt like that.
No.
And I know, my before and after is drastic. I don't want somebody to look at me and think, oh my God, she's done it. She's worked it out and I still haven't. I'm still terrible and useless and a failure. And so I love it because since I've shared my journey, 5 women have contacted me for help in getting their process started. 4 have already had their surgery. 1's going at the end of this month, and 1 has made her first appointment. And I'm just like, yes, go do it. Have that first consult and find out more.
Yeah.
Because obviously it's a medical thing, so you need to speak to the doctor about it. I'm not getting involved in that. But go and get the help. Find out if you qualify. See what they say about your specific case and your specific health issues. Don't go through life feeling like there's something wrong with you because you haven't hit that figuring out part yet. You might never do it. Get the help.
And it's so interesting about that woman.
Yeah.
Because she's created the shame for herself.
Yes.
Because she was obviously feeling shame being bigger, but now she's just taken that shame and converted it into another form of shame. Instead of being proud of herself for making the decision to change her life, to be healthier, to be happier, she just created the shame into something else, which she's still carrying the shame, but it's not healthy.
No, and that's where I think approaching it from a different place makes all the difference. So I went into the surgery because, my whole mindset was, I love myself, I love my children, I love my family, I love my future enough to do this.
Yeah.
Not, I hate what I've become. I hate my body. I hate my life. I hate my everything. And that's why I'm doing this. And I really do feel that being open about it just invites encouragement and support and love and growth and I you know me well enough to know that my life is about service and others and helping. And I knew when I found people who shared their story with me, how much they helped me, I wanted to be that for others too.
And that's the first thing I said to you. I was like, you have to share this.
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah, exactly.
Do it.
Yes. And I've got so many ideas buzzing in my head about how I can grow this feeling of helping and encouraging. And I mean, my journey's nowhere near over. It's going to be the rest of my life. And it's funny because every diet I've ever been on has been hate and shame based. Hate and shame, hate and shame, hate and shame, deprivation, suffering, struggling. Sorry, I can't come out with you because I'm on diet. I can't drink. I can't eat. I can't go to a restaurant. I can't go to the kids' party. Oh no, I dare not go to a restaurant because I'm going to be too tempted. And I think one of the biggest misconceptions about bariatric surgery is that I don't have that at all. I'm allowed, in inverted commas, whatever I want. I'm allowed. There's no rule about you are not allowed. It's you're allowed whatever you want. Choose how you build your day. Choose how you build your week. You know what you need to be consuming. You know what's good for you. I mean, listen, it's 2023. We don't not know what's right for us.
Yeah,
100%. We know. We know. Don't eat too much sugar. Eat some sugar. Don't drink too much. Drink a little bit. Don't eat too much. Eat less. Don't not eat. Eat more. Exercise. Move your body. Pray. Meditate. We know all of that. If it was a case of what we know and don't know, it would be a different story. We do know.
Yeah.
And so being able to reach a point of I can go to a restaurant and order anything off the menu that I want and enjoy every bite and put my knife and fork together and say, I'll take the rest home for later, and feel satisfied and my taste buds are bursting because it tasted so good, and enjoy the company that I'm with and have that feeling of enjoyment around food is something that I didn't think I'd ever get. I thought having bariatric surgery will take away my love of food and my love of cooking. I mean, I love cooking for people. I love having people around and making something nice. I love making nice food for my kids. And I thought, oh, well, that's gone. I'm just going to have protein shakes and broccoli. And my dietitian was so amazing because she said from the get-go, Gaelyn, the whole point of surgery is to not live your life on diet. It's to not be on diet ever again. The point of it is to heal what's broken. So take the insulin resistance, the fatty liver, the pre-diabetes, when you that overweight, all the hormones in your stomach are out of whack. So you never get the full signals. So no matter what you eat, you're never satisfied because you're feeding an emotional hunger. You're never full because that emotional part of you is so empty and so needy. So eating now is pleasurable. And I was talking to my sister about it the other day, and she, we were at the pool and we ordered a pizza to share, and I had 2 pieces of pizza and she had a couple pieces of pizza and the kids ate pizza, and we got back in the pool And she said, it's the most bizarre thing, because you just sat down, you ate some pizza, you carried on with your day, and it was not even a thing. And I was like, no, it's not. It was a treat. I didn't feel like I couldn't. I had the pizza that everyone else was having. I had a fun day with my family. I forget most days that I've even had the surgery, because I've finally learned to trust my body and trust my feelings of hunger. Am I stomach hungry? Is my body physically hungry? Or am I mind hungry or heart hungry? What am I hungry for? Do I need food, or do I need to take myself out for coffee on my own and breathe and just be alone? Or do I need to lie on my bed and have a nap? Or do I need to see a friend? Or do I need to go for a walk? What is it that I'm hungry for? Whereas before, hunger was always it was always food. I just need to fill myself with food. That hunger is food, food, food. That's the only thing. And now that I physically can't fit more than that much food in, it leaves space for me to address the rest of the hunger in my life. And I think that's why, people are always commenting, you look so free. Yes, you look wonderful because you've lost all this weight, and but there's a light in you. There's a lightness. And it's because I have been able to finally address that hunger that I've carried with me my whole life, and just let it go. And now find joy and pleasure in the simple things, which when you are carrying an eating disorder around, you can never do.
I just keep looking at you, because you would never have worn a top like that before.
Oh, no.
So the people that will watch this on YouTube later on, if you're listening to the podcast, I'll put this video on YouTube in a month's time. But you'll see she's wearing a cutaway vest, and you would never, it is always sleeves, and obviously you look so good, and I'll be like, you look so good. Also, but also as a trainer, I can say that because I know the amount of work it takes to actually physically put in the work and do the weight training and all that stuff. So I can say it and not be like, oh, I'm just saying that because, everyone must look fit and healthy. No, because I also know that on the inside you're healthy as well. So it's like a holistic health that you now have.
Yeah, and it's something that I'm still trying to figure out for myself, because I am a firm believer in health at every size. I really do believe in that movement. And I really do believe that you don't have to look a certain way to be happy or to be healthy. And I'm struggling a little bit with the conflict. Oh, I don't know what's happened to my video there.
If you're watching on YouTube, there we go.
Oh gosh, okay. So I'm struggling to figure out.
Reiterating the point.
Yeah, really, really making the point there is that I was overweight. I mean, I was 105 kgs when I was doing triathlons. I was literally doing para-triathlon for South Africa at 105 kgs. So by all intents and purposes, I was unhealthy. I was fat. I shouldn't have been doing it. But I went for blood tests. I went for medical assessments. There was nothing wrong with me. I was perfectly healthy. So yes, you can be healthy at every size until you're not. And so that's what changed for me, is that I had my gallbladder issues, and it was through the tests and scans that they found everything else that was going on. And I'd been feeling actually really rotten for quite some time. And I'd put it down to postnatal depression. I'd put it down to, I have just moved countries. I've got a teenager who's moved, my stepdaughter moved in with us when she was 16. I've got a small baby. I've got a husband who's working flat out. So I'm doing most of this on my own. And I kind of just put it down to that. But only when I started to feel better did I realize how not well I had felt. And it just shows that we think that is the level of life that we should be living. Is this just what it feels like? People will talk about aging. Oh, but your knees are always sore, or your back is always sore, or you're just always tired. Well, yes, to an extent, that is true. But there is also possibility that what you're feeling is more than just age or exhaustion because you have small children. It can also be that there were health issues, which is exactly what happened. And, when the doctors were giving me my results, they said, oh, you're not feeling terrible. I said, yeah, I do. They're like, your liver is toxic. It's so bad. Of course you're feeling crap. And I was like, oh. And it comes in with the shame of being overweight is, but when you're carrying this much weight, you would feel bad. And so that's why there's this whole thing about fat people not getting medical help, not going to doctors because they feel like, well, it's my own fault. And I only feel this way because I'm fat and I don't want someone to tell me that. And also a lot of doctors are very unsympathetic and uncaring and won't do investigations because they'll look you in the eye and say, but it's because you're so fat. If you just lost 10 kgs, you'd feel a lot better. And I'm so grateful that I had a GP who looked me dead in the eye and said, what are we going to do about your weight? And at first I was like, oh, how can you say that? And he said, but Gaelyn, look here, here's your results. You're not healthy. It is directly affecting your health and your ability to live a good life. It's not just, oh, I can't wear a bikini on the beach. And so from there, it sort of started the process. And, you know, he mentioned going to see a bariatric surgeon. And I was like, no one's ever suggested it to me. And I can understand why. I mean, if I walked up to a friend and said, God, you're looking fat, have you thought about gastric bypass? You know what I mean? But when somebody comes to me, and that's why it's so funny because you know that I'm into human design, and as a projector, my thing is to wait for the invitation. And so waiting for people to come to me and say, hey, can you help me? It's like my soul just sings and my energy just is like, let me help you, because I just so desperately want, I want this for everyone. I want this feeling for everyone, this freedom and this peace and this joy of self, of who I am. And yeah, I'll be as superficial and whatever. I look good. I'm smaller than I've ever been. I like the way I look, but that's 10% of my happiness at the moment. It really is a feeling. It's a feeling, and it's
the confidence that's radiating as well. Like you can, like everyone says you're glowing, and you are because you're happy, but it's also like, and you're allowed to say that. You feel confident now. Like you're walking on the beach. I saw a photo of you. You're walking on the beach in a bikini, and you're allowed to be happy and celebrate that and be like, hell yes, I look flipping good. And I'm so proud of myself for that, because you've gone through hell and back. We will get into that in a minute. But like, you are allowed to praise yourself, and you need to praise yourself, because your mind only believes what you say. So no use me telling you how amazing you look. You need to tell yourself that every day. So it's not selfish. Like self-love is not selfish. It's needed. It's important. So you being able to feel confident, and you can see it radiates. I remember like before you had your surgery, like last year, you didn't post a lot of full body photos on Instagram and stuff. You actually didn't post a lot of photos when you're at your biggest, compared to like now and before. Like I've watched, obviously we've been friends and following each other for years, so I've seen the ebbs and the flows. But like you now, when I think about it now, I'm like, you didn't actually post a lot of full body photos, nothing. And then when I saw your before photo, I was like, oh, I didn't see you in person because you'd been away. I hadn't seen you in person since you'd had Jessie. So it was like, I actually hadn't seen you that big. So it's like, I don't think people realized, because you weren't posting the full body pictures and stuff, they didn't realize how unhealthy you actually were, like on the inside. And how these health issues had come up. So I think maybe also people were a little bit like, oh, she's having surgery, but she doesn't seem that bad. And then you see the photo and you're like, oh, okay, she's put on some weight, so this is definitely the right thing for her. It's not the right thing for everyone, but for you, it was the right choice.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. I mean, no, there are those very rare unicorns who put their full body up and say, this is what it looks like to be this size, you know, this is what the rolls look like, and this is what we look like. And there was always a part of me that thought maybe I should, because I almost felt like I was faking it, because I was hiding that whole part of me. Nobody was really getting a chance to know the real me, because so much of who I was hidden, and it just felt so inauthentic. And that was one of the things when I announced my surgery publicly on Instagram. It's one of the things that I said, that I mean, I've got it written on my phone, I see it all the time, is I want to be more me than I've ever been. I want to find that inner Gaelyn who's been there all along, and every now and again glimmers will come out, but who is mostly hidden and kept away from the world. And so that's the version of me that's coming out now. And it's almost like as each kilogram has dropped off. Yes, the weight is coming off, but I'm doing a lot of work on unpacking as well. So I'm removing the bricks physically that I've built up around myself. And so it is a dual process. Yes, you're eating less and the weight's going to come off. I mean, the first 18 months after surgery, the weight's coming off. You don't have to do all that much. And that's what I say to people. People are like, oh my God, bariatric surgery is the hardest thing I've ever done. It's like, it's not the hardest thing I've ever done. The surgery part is not the hardest thing I've ever done. The work I'm doing, the emotional work, and the work with my psychologist, and the journaling, and the really figuring stuff out. That's the hard part, not the eating. That's easy. And so letting that Gaelyn have the opportunity to come out is what I'm most excited about. And not being scared to pursue dreams that I've kept also hidden away because I didn't deserve, or who's gonna trust me, or who's gonna listen to me when I'm just this sad, sick fat girl. I mean, as cruel as that sounds, that's how I felt. That is what I felt about myself at that time. And so is that in sharing myself physically and openly, I'm also allowing myself to share more of who I am and give people a glimpse into that as well, which is a vulnerable thing and a brave thing and an important thing.
My top says, be brave, be bold. Award for you.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think that I'm going to ask you this question again, and I don't even remember what your answer was last time. So everyone will have to go listen to the old episode. So now, in this body that you're in now, after this whole process, what does self-love mean to you now?
Grace. Grace with myself. Getting emotional. Forgiveness. Forgiveness. Just forgiving myself and having grace with myself for the journey that I've been on. I didn't choose that life for myself. I didn't choose to develop that eating disorder. It wasn't a choice that I was making. And I wasn't weak for getting there. I was strong for living in that body and living that life and reaching a point of saying, now I want more for myself. And so self-love to me is whatever it feels like on that day. Because today, what I feel like means, or what feels like self-love today might not feel like self-love tomorrow. And so there's a fluidity and a flexibility. And I feel like before the surgery, I was so strict with rules and decisions and statements. This is my, like, what is it that companies do? Like a mission statement. This is my mission statement. This is who I am. This is the definition of Gaelyn. This is the definition of whatever. And now there's no definition. There's no rules. There's grace and flexibility and fluidity in embracing all the elements that make me who I am and all the experiences that have made me who I am today.
I love that. And I think that obviously through your experiences, now you have a newfound respect for your body, not just because now you are in a body that you love, but also because you've been through so much with your surgery. So maybe we'll go into that if you are happy to talk about your surgery and the complications.
So I was actually thinking about it this morning, and I wondered whether I feel so grateful and free now because of the complications that I had, or if I would have felt this way anyway. So I went into the surgery with I wasn't high risk for any complications. There was no indication that anything was going to go wrong. I had the surgery, woke up absolutely fine, got out of bed, walked around the same day, was discharged after 2 days. And initially everything was fine. So for those who don't know, for 6 weeks after bariatric surgery, you're on a liquid diet. So you progress from clear liquids like apple juice and broth right through to like Future Life porridge and soups and things. So you slowly build your way as your stomach heals. And about a week after my surgery, I started getting really nauseous, and the nausea progressed to vomiting. And that was, to try and compress 4 months into 5 minutes. I was in and out of hospital 4 times between March and May. I had every test they could think of. They were doing blood work every second day. They were doing ultrasounds. They were doing CT scans. They were doing MRIs. They were doing swallow tests. They were doing x-rays. And they could never find out what was wrong. And I would be in hospital. I would get fluids. I still wouldn't be able to eat. So then they would need to give me IV nutrition. But because my veins are so bad, I had to have central lines. So I had drips running in my neck with TPN, which is the food in a bag. And then a few days of that, and I would feel better, and I would be able to start eating, and I would be discharged. And then within 48 hours, I would be vomiting again. And it was absolutely horrendous, because eventually what started happening is I started to experience numbness. So it started here on my chest. And at first I thought it was something to do with the drip. And I actually said to the anesthetist, have you not pressed on something, or is there swelling that's making this numb patch? And he said, no, that's got nothing to do with me. And that numbness then became numb over my abdomen and my diaphragm. And then I started to have trouble with my bladder. So it's almost like, when you've got a bladder infection, you constantly feel like you need to go to the toilet, but then you'll sit there, nothing will happen. Or I would go to the toilet and I'd stand up and I'd get back to bed, and then I would mess myself. And then I started having numbness on my legs and really bad pain, really, 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 really bad pain in my legs. And I described the numbness as if I was wearing stockings. And I said to the doctor, it feels like someone's put a pair of stockings on, because if I do that, I can't feel anything. But if I squeeze it, I can still feel. So my leg still has feeling, but my skin doesn't have any feeling. And the pain honestly felt like my muscles were dissolving. That's the way I described it. It feels like my muscles are just dying and all my cells are dying. And it was incredibly difficult because I was told by certain of my team that it was psychological, and that it was in my head, and it was anxiety. And I said, but I've never had anxiety in my life. I'm not an anxious person. And they disagreed and got me a referral to a psychiatrist, who put me on hectic sedation, which they were convinced would then calm me enough that the nausea would stop. Well, obviously it didn't, because I didn't have anxiety. But all that it did was drug me. So now I was already in this pain, having this loss of bodily control, and I was now sedated to, I don't know how people do drugs, because it felt terrible. I mean, some people are like, oh, that must have been amazing. I was like, no, I actually hated it. It felt I felt so vulnerable and so powerless that anything could have happened, and I couldn't defend myself. I couldn't advocate for myself. And it just progressed and deteriorated to the point where I'd been in hospital for 2 weeks, and I couldn't get out of bed anymore. I literally couldn't walk to the bathroom, which was 10 steps from my bed. I had to get a wheelchair. I was being wheeled around and still wasn't being listened to. And it was only when, I had nurses helping me to the bathroom. I couldn't stand up off the wheelchair to sit on the toilet. So I had 2 nurses physically moving me, and physically moving me back into the wheelchair and wheeling me back to bed. And it was when I fell off the toilet, because I couldn't even hold myself up on the toilet. I'll tell you the story because it's funny now, but people talk about rock bottom, and it really was my rock bottom. Most awful moment of my life was those little bathrooms in the hospital are tiny, and there's no demarcated shower. There's literally a shower a meter away from the toilet. And so one of the other patients had showered just beforehand. So all her old soapy water was in a puddle around the toilet and on the floor. And when I tried to get up off the toilet, I fell into her used shower water. And I was lying in the fetal position, just sobbing in this woman's dirty shower water. The nurses were panicking, hitting buttons and calling matrons and things. They stripped me naked. They took off all my clothes, because obviously I was sopping wet. And they frog marched me back, dragged me wet and naked and dripping across the ward, past the other patients, and put me back in my bed and left me to go and get help. And I just lay there, just sobbing and just thinking, I'm dying. This is it. I'm dying. Because I can feel myself getting worse, and I can feel myself deteriorating, and nobody's hearing me. And my gut was telling me that there was something else going on, and it had been for weeks. And for 6 weeks, I had been talking about this, and I had been ignored. And eventually on that day, they referred the neurologist to come and see me. And she came and saw me that night, and she was doing all her assessments. And she said, do you know that you've lost the reflexes in your leg? I said, what do you mean? So she said, you know, when they do the thing like that on your knee, and your knee's meant to jump? Nothing. I said, I didn't know that. I mean, it's not like I regularly check my reflexes. And she said, there's something hectic going on here with your nerves. You've lost nerve. Your nerves are dying. I was like, well, that'll explain the pain. She said, yes, because when your nerves aren't being innervated, your muscles aren't being stimulated, and they start to die off. And so, you know, if I'm being told literally 24 hours before, you need to get out of bed and walk more because that'll help you feel better, to, girl, you can't get out of bed, you can't walk, you've lost the use of your legs. And so the neurologist said that she thought it was Guillain-Barré syndrome, and she was going to do lumbar punctures, MRIs, a whole heap of other blood tests. And at that point, I had also been, and this is something that I haven't shared publicly yet, but again, it just feels like, so I want to give the full story, is I had been doing some research online when all of this was happening and my conditions were deteriorating, and I found that there were a percentage of bariatric patients who developed a thiamine deficiency post-operatively, which is vitamin B1. And all of these patients had said, get them to test your thiamine. And when I asked my team, they refused and said, it's too early, it's not a thiamine issue. And so it was never tested. And it was only when I saw the neurologist and I said, please, can you just test my thiamine? She said, sure, no problem. She said, but the results take a while. So let's treat you for Guillain-Barré, because at this point, that is what it's looking to be. And let's also treat you for a thiamine deficiency, because if you have a thiamine deficiency and you don't get thiamine, you will die. So thiamine affects your brain and your heart. So you can get two different effects of that. And the brain one is the nerves, which is exactly what was happening to me. So if you don't get the thiamine and you need it, you'll die. And if you do get thiamine and you don't actually need it, you'll just urinate it out. Like, it just does nothing to you. So she started treating me for both at the same time. The polygam treatment was flipping expensive, very, very expensive, 90,000 Rand per day. So, no, sorry, 9,000 Rand per bottle. And I was getting more than one bottle a day for 5 days. So the total was just under 100,000 Rand for this treatment. That was going to save my life. So what do I say? Well, actually, no, I can't afford that.
No, I don't want to.
And, you know, they assured me medical aid does pay for it. So I said, okay, well, you know what? Even if we have to go and take out a loan, fine. And so she ran the treatments, and my conditions stopped deteriorating at that point. So I had also had a few other symptoms that didn't tie in with GBS, but did tie in with the thiamine. Like, I lost my voice. I spoke like this. This is the most that I could manage, because my vocal cords were being paralyzed. I had breathing episodes in the night where I woke up and couldn't breathe, and my oxygen sats dropped into the 70s. I was rushed onto oxygen. They were about to, you know, move me out to ICU, and fortunately managed to sort that out. And that happened a few times, which was also absolutely terrifying. I've never had asthma or anything like that, so I don't know what it feels like to not be able to breathe. And I had 3 episodes like that. And honestly, I thought, well, this is it. You know, goodbye world. It's been swell, but I'm checking out. So, you know, the reason why I'm giving this whole conflicting what diagnosis was it thing is that one of the biggest things that I think has changed in my confidence is that I finally trust myself enough to fight to be heard. And I should have fought to be heard then. I wasn't. I didn't advocate for myself effectively. I didn't fight to be heard. I had contacted another bariatric team in Joburg, the top one in the country, and I was 24 hours away from getting an ambulance transfer up to be taken over by them, because I didn't feel like I was being cared for properly, and that I needed the most experienced team. And that's when the GBS diagnosis happened, and I needed to stay with my neurologist. And, the explanation was everything that you've been through is because of this. So now that we have a diagnosis after 3 months, we can treat it and you'll start to get better. And that is what happened. I did start to get better. I mean, the physio was coming to see me 2 to 3 times a day in hospital. It was just excruciating, the pain. I've never felt pain like that in my life. And bear in mind, I had a failed spinal when I had my first Caesar. So I've literally felt somebody's hands inside my body, and that pain was nothing compared to this. And it lasted months. I mean, I still have pain every day of my life. So yeah, I think that's part of my freedom and my self-love, is that I have learned to trust myself. My gut has never been wrong, but I've had people and situations in my life that have made me question it and not listen. And it's something that I know now I will never doubt. I will never doubt or question my intuition, because it's always right. And so, I was eventually discharged at the end of May. And I came home and I spent the first month upstairs in my room because I couldn't go up and down stairs. I couldn't go to the toilet by myself. I couldn't shower on my own. I couldn't cook a meal. I couldn't get dressed. I had to lie on my bed and get dressed on my bed because I couldn't stand to get dressed. I couldn't drive. I couldn't sit up and down off a chair. It was debilitating. And I think part of the journey of growth within myself has been trusting my body to learn to do everything again, and learning to do it on my terms. Learning to walk, to breathe, to go to the toilet, to shower, to bath, to read, to walk up and down stairs, to walk on the beach, the freedom of driving. All of it has been on my timeline and the way I want it, which I was raised a good girl. You don't ask for what you want. And it's such a joke with my husband and I that I was kind of raised painfully polite. If you pop into someone's house to fetch something and they say, "Would you like a drink?" you always say, "No, thank you," because you don't want to inconvenience them. It doesn't matter if it's 40 degrees and you're dying of thirst. You don't even ask for a glass of water. Whereas he's like, "Sure, I'll have a coffee if you're making." I'm like, "Oh, you can't say that. You can't ask for coffee." He's like, "But they offered." And it's funny because when people come to my house, I insist, "Please have something, please." It makes me feel good to give you something and make you feel welcome. And it's kind of like how I was in hospital. And then when everything happened, I just thought, you know what? I'm going to be the girl who asks for a cup of tea or a glass of juice. I'm going to be that woman now. And if it doesn't suit you, you'll say, "Actually, no, I can't." And I'm done inconveniencing myself to make your life more convenient. And so, the transformation has also been in my recovery and in testing myself and learning what I'm capable of. And, the doctors told me I wouldn't be fully independent before the end of 2022. And I basically said, "Screw you, that doesn't work for me. I've got small children. I've got a family to look after. I can't do it like that. So sorry, your timeline is wrong."
And you literally drove to the Midlands by yourself.
Yes, exactly. And did a freaking yoga class. You know what I mean? And I didn't know. And I said to you, when you advertised that retreat, I said, "Jane, how far is the walk to the waterfall? I want to come." And I said to you, that's my goal. I'm going to do it. I'm going to go to gym. I'm going to tell my trainer. I'm going to, and I said to my trainer, "This is what I need to do." And he said, "Great, let's do it."
I've had so many people reach out to me and to say that they would love to come to yoga with me, but they have never done yoga before, or they are overseas and can't come to my in-person classes. Well, the best news is that I already have an online beginner yoga program for you. It has videos that you follow along. You literally learn how to stand on your mat. You don't have to have any experience at all. And it takes you through each pose, how to do it, how to feel. Then you'll flow from one to the next. Then we go through sun salutations. You learn how to do a meditation. You also learn how to breathe. It really is an amazing program. And you can find it on my Teachable account, or you can go onto my website, unselfishlyme.com, go to the shop, and in that you can find the movement section. It is right there under there, and you can book online, and I'll send you the logins for our Teachable account, and you can go and follow along and learn to do yoga. And you did it. And I turned around and I started videoing you. And I was like, oh my God, when you walked to the waterfall and you're leaving. It was just amazing. It was so nice to see. And even when we did the yoga class, because we even chatted about it before, I was like, yes, I teach beginner yoga, but you've been through so much. You were literally learning how to be able to sit down on the toilet and lift yourself off. Like you're doing squats onto a bench so that you could learn to do that. So I was like, okay, you just do what you can, like whatever you can. And you honestly, like I told you this in the moment, I stopped the whole class while they were holding a pose. I said, sorry, I just need to take a photo of this. Like you blew me away. Like you did tree pose. What? Like,
I know. And it's almost like we live our lives so afraid of bullshit. What are people going to think? What is it going to feel like? What if I can't do it? So what? And I've learned 2022 taught me, like I literally couldn't even wee by myself. Like when you are humbled to the point of being offered a nappy in hospital as a fully grown woman, it just puts things into perspective.
Yeah.
And really has shifted my priorities for myself, for my life, what I want that to look like, what I want my life to feel like. And that's where the whole, again, it comes back to self-love and what I'm worth and what I'm worthy of. I've always believed I'm worthy of love. I mean, logically, my brain has always said it, but my heart never fully believed it. And it's almost like now the love, I'm so worthy of my own love that anyone else's love is a bonus.
100%.
I fill that love tank so full myself that anything else is an overflow. It's a nice to have. I don't need it from anybody else. And it's the same with validation and affirmation. And, you know, people have always said, oh, but you post so much on social media and you're looking for that external validation. Yeah, it's great. Don't come at me and say you don't like likes. Please. Find me a person on earth who truly doesn't like the likes and like the comments. Of course we do. And that's not a bad thing. It's nice. You paint a beautiful picture, you put the picture up on the wall, and you want people to say, wow, that's a beautiful picture. It doesn't mean that you don't love your picture. It means that more people love your picture. So yeah, it's been such a journey, and like I started saying, I don't know whether I would have reached the same point without the struggle that I went through. I will tell people who are considering bariatric surgery, if I could just cancel out that 4 months in the middle, and just take the surgery, and then because basically, when I came out of hospital, I basically went to day 1 post-op. I had to learn how to eat again. I had to learn how to drink. I had to do everything from then. So if I look at that, it's been a breeze, really. And people will probably be pretty cross with me for saying this, but it's been a breeze because all that emotional baggage that has lived around food is gone. It's just gone. And so, you can't eat and drink at the same time. And there's an amazing meal and you want to finish a meal, but you can't because your pouch is small and you can only fit a sixth of it or whatever. Like if I eat a nice restaurant meal, I'll take it home and eat it for 3 days. I still get to eat the whole thing. You know what I mean? And it's like, how much of life is excess? If something is nice, we want more of it. Sleep. I like sleep. I don't want 6 hours of sleep. I want 10 hours of sleep. I like being in the sun. I don't want 2 hours of sun. I want 6 hours of sun, but I don't because I'm going to get sunburned. Food. I love cake. I can't eat a whole cake. I'll eat a slice of cake. And it's like we feel like if we deprive ourselves, we're punishing ourselves. And we're suffering because we're not giving ourselves all the lovely things in life that we want. You can have all the lovely things in life as long as they are lovely to you and for you. And that's what I'm figuring out. People, relationships. One of the things that I've made my goal for this year is to get out and extend my social circle and meet new people and put myself out there, which I was always hesitant to do. People are just I think I'm a lovely person. I've always thought I'm a nice person. I'm kind, I'm caring, I'm funny. I'm well read. I can hold a conversation with most people and I can make small talk. But I was so concerned about their first impressions of me that they would never give me a chance.
Mm.
And now it's like, well, you would be lucky to be my friend, and I would be lucky to be yours. And it's more of a mutual,
Respect.
a level of, and it's a level of equality. We're meeting on the same level. It's not you are automatically better or more than me because of what you look like compared to what I look like.
Mm.
And I truly believe that there are people who look like anything. I mean, all spectrums who have that feeling, but I didn't. When I was at my biggest, I didn't have that feeling, and I wasn't going to figure it out, and I wasn't going to suddenly find it. This is what my journey needed to look like to find that.
Mm.
And yeah, I mean, next month, the end of February, will be my 1 year since my surgery. And like, if I look at what I've experienced in that year, it's just mind blowing.
Mm.
And it's still, I mean, it's still ongoing. I'm not fully recovered. I'm not fully healed. There's still things that I can't do. And I still on quite a lot of pain meds, and I still have, things that I'm figuring out. And it's going to take a year, at least another year or two before that I can kind of say, well, I'm fully healed. But emotionally, I'm so on the path to being able to say that I'm healed from this. And in sharing my story, I'm processing. And I think just reminding other people that we all have hard. We all have trauma. We all have, people will say, oh my God, but you've been through more than anyone. No, I haven't. There's people who've been through more than me, but you can't measure suffering. It's like saying, oh, well, you broke your leg, but at least you didn't break your back. Okay, but my leg is broken, and that's really sore, and that's debilitating, and that's limiting. So you can't measure whose pain hurts more or whose trauma, has affected them more. You deal with what you dealt, and you make the most of your situation and try and figure it out the best you can. And I'm figuring out as I go.
I do think, well, my gut is telling me that I do think that you appreciate it more and you have more gratitude because it has been so much harder for you. I think that you would have been appreciative, obviously, and grateful and happy and confident. But I think because you had those 4 months of literally rock bottom, life changing, what no one should have to go through, literally thinking you're dying, not knowing what, you are so much more grateful for your body and how it carried you through that. Because a lesser person, someone with a weaker immune system, they might not have made it through that, and like I think that you have this level.
Yeah, she literally said to me, this can go either way in the next 48 hours. You can end up on a ventilator in ICU, or the treatment's going to work and you're going to start to get better. So you need to just let your family know that that's what might happen.
Wow.
And again, that's something that I haven't shared openly because it was so difficult to think of. And when I was getting so bad, I'd said to my husband, don't bring the little girls to see me. It was very traumatic on my children as well. I mean, I'd spent 2 nights away from them the year before in their lives. And that was so hard, 2 nights. And now every time I said I'm going to the doctor, I wouldn't come back. I would stay. And then I would come home and they would just see me vomiting and, curled up in the bed, not being able to look after them. And it was really hard on them. And eventually I said to my husband, don't bring them because I don't want them to see me like this. And then, in fact, they couldn't come and see me because children aren't allowed in the ward and I couldn't get out my bed. So I didn't see them for 12 days, I think was the longest, because I couldn't get out. I couldn't leave my bed and I didn't want them to see me being wheeled into the coffee shop in a wheelchair. And then eventually my psychologist just said to me, no, speak to the matron, make a plan, get those kids here into the ward on a quiet afternoon and let them just see you. And it was the best thing for me and for them. And they didn't notice anything because I was in the bed and they just climbed on the bed and I just sobbed and sobbed and sobbed. And it was very difficult. And I mean, we're all still processing that. And it'll be a while with that separation anxiety and for both of us. I mean, I also can't bear, I don't like that either. But yeah, I don't share that part because it's almost like not private, because I don't want any of this to feel private, but I just haven't felt ready to, like, people have seen that it's bad, but I haven't felt emotionally strong enough to share those really, really deep moments of pain, emotional pain. And facing the fact that, I mean, I literally still have the note saved on my phone. I wrote a goodbye letter to everyone because I might, that's what it might have come to. And so I haven't ever gone back and read it.
No.
I will one day. It's just there. And again, it just made me realize that, I say it all the time, life is short. Life is too short to wear clothes at the beach. Life is too short not to be in the pool with your kids. Life is too short not to do that thing you've been holding off on doing. Life is short and precious. And people hear it all the time. And it's such a cliche because it's true. You've been given one life, one chance. That's it. Don't live it hiding in a body that doesn't feel like your own. Don't live it in a body that's hurting you and hurting you emotionally and hurting you physically, when it is possible to feel so much better. And it is possible to let go of the emotional weight and the physical weight. With each kg that dropped, a kg of shame dropped, and a kg of embarrassment and distrust for myself, and it was replaced with something else.
And I think that goes for, if you're looking to have surgery, it could go for someone who is unhappy but wants to lose 10 kgs. And that's going and signing up with a trainer, or just start eating less, or whatever it is. It's that first step. It's just, life is too short to not put yourself first, and to love yourself enough to make those small changes.
Exactly. And really truly believe that you are deserving of happiness, and not superficial happiness. Not, oh my gosh, going out, going on holiday, look at me, Mauritius, so happy. It's that true inner joy. It's not even like a happiness, like it feels like joy is a better word. I don't know why. Happiness just feels like it can be faked, but you can't fake true joy. And just developing that sense of self and that trust, and trusting yourself. I think that's another thing you asked about self-love. I think it's also trusting yourself.
So I have a question on that. Okay, I've been trying to remember it since you said it. You said that you trust yourself more now, and you found your voice, literally and figuratively. And you've always trusted your gut, but you trust it more now. Do you trust your gut and trust yourself more now in your new body versus your old? And if so, why do you think?
I absolutely do trust myself more now in this body. And I think it's because when I was at my biggest, I was in the thick of my eating disorder, and my eating disorder controlled every aspect of my life. And so I didn't trust anything that I did because I was so emotionally unwell. And now that I'm in recovery from that eating disorder, I am in control of what I'm feeling and what I'm doing and what I'm consuming, and I'm making conscious decisions about things. So I'm not just living mindlessly, I'm living mindfully. And so in that mindful living, I trust that I am making decisions and doing things that are truly for me, not just being controlled by an eating disorder.
Oh, I love that. That was what I like. As soon as you said it, I was like, oh, she trusts herself more now in this body, which was so interesting as well.
Yeah. And I think, again, it comes down to feeling deserving.
Yes.
I'm deserving of my own trust and my own love. And there's not a chance in hell anyone's ever going to take that away from me. And there have been, I mean, you know my life story. There have been, I mean, like, as people will say this to me all the time, but I seldom say it myself. Like, I've been through more than most. Like, in my 37 years, I've experienced more than what a lot of people have. And so it's taught me so much, but I feel like I haven't fully embraced the lessons until now. And I've been able to really process and unpack and delve into the the various traumatic, painful experiences that I've been through, because I feel like I'm emotionally equipped to deal with what it brings.
That makes sense.
And once you've unpacked it, you can let it go. I don't have to carry it around with me anymore. And that's freeing.
Your backpack must feel much lighter now, hey?
Yeah, much.
Oh man, this has been so good. If you have one piece of advice to anyone, doesn't matter if they want surgery or not, anyone, like something that's universal that can be for anyone, what would it be?
Don't let you hold you back. There are enough people out there who will do their best to hold you back, whether it's a partner, a parent, a boss, your trauma, your whatever. That, like, let them be the ones who try and stop you from being your most real, genuine, authentic, beautiful, loving self. Don't let you be the reason. So whether that reason is your weight, an eating disorder, depression, anxiety, a career that you don't love, a partner that you're unhappy with, a family that is toxic, whatever it is that you are in control of, let it go, work it out, make the change. You've got to be brave to be brave. You've got to make that first brave step to find your brave. It's like courage is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. And so, yeah, whatever is you already know. We all already know inside what we need. We do know. And if you just still and quiet the outside noise enough, you'll hear it and you'll know what to do.
Oh, I love that. I've loved chatting to you. Where can everyone find you? I know your Instagram, you're very active.
Yes, very active on Instagram. It's Gay Cocaine, GAECOKAYNE. And I am on TikTok. I'm trying to get more active there. But I love Instagram. I'm trying to love TikTok. Yeah, I'm on Twitter as well. But that's more just for random ramblings, but the same username.
Yeah. And if anyone has any questions, we are happy to do a follow-up episode. So if anyone has any questions, just DM me on Instagram at unselfishlyme or email hello@unselfishlyme.com and put the subject as Gaelyn. And then, yeah, once we get enough questions, if you want to do a follow-up episode, we will do one with everyone's questions. I'm happy to do that. I know she is. I don't even have to ask her. And then also she's a sharer, so DM her on Instagram if you have any questions as well, and she will answer there. But thank you, friend, for coming on and to being so brave and bold and to, just sharing your story. And I think I kept saying that I thought that it happened to you, like the complications and stuff happened to you because it might save someone else's life who is not meant to have the surgery and that they were on the fence and that maybe they see that struggle and they're like, oh no, okay, I wouldn't be able to handle that. Because you need to be able to handle like something like that because it could happen. So I always said, I'm sure it happened. Even when people ask me, I'd be like, I think this is happening to her because she's a sharer and that she's actually going to save someone's life.
Yeah.
It was, how many people asked when I put up I posted on Instagram now saying the episode that everyone's been waiting for. Because when I put up a box asking, let me know who I want to interview, like some more South Africans, like let me know. And so many people put your name. So, yeah.
Oh, good.
The scoop is here, everyone.
I really do. Yeah, I really do feel like there's such power in sharing and feeling like we're not alone. Nothing that we are going through, we are not the only person on earth to ever go through anything. I feel like, okay, I've had 2 bad outcomes from surgeries now. I feel like that's maybe I'm like in the 1%. But even then, I'm not the only person. So if you ask and if you share, you will always find someone else who can help you through what you're going through.
100%.
You're never fully alone. And you've always got you.
Yes. The most important person.
Exactly.
This has been so good. And also as a trainer, I think for me, it's also been your journey and also hearing it from you. I mean, we chatted a lot afterwards, but it's also been good for someone like me who's always been about like, okay, now I'm about the inside and I have been for like 10 years, but I was always like outside. And for me, I was, obviously I'd be like, no, but like, let me help you. I mean, I think we've spoken about it years ago as well. I'm like, I'll help you. Let me help you. But hearing you speak about it and knowing what I know now, it's like, I was never going to be able to help you. Now I can with yoga, and we can do like mindfulness, but it was never going to be about the outside for you. And it's not. So it's nice for other trainers and people that are in my industry to listen and hear, and to have more empathy for people as well, and to understand. So I'm grateful that you've been sharing too, because I've learned a lot as well.
Well, and I've always said it to you, like you're such a guide and such a light to so many, and I'm very grateful. I mean, you've had me on here before, and even in talking, I'm figuring things out and things are clicking into place, and you're also changing lives. So thank you for having me and giving me the platform to share my story and hopefully help somebody else.
Yes, I think you will. I think you'll be surprised. So yeah, if we change your life, let us know, because it makes us feel good too. So relax.
You like the lax. It's okay to like lax.
It's okay to like the lax. You just have to be able to tell yourself in the mirror that you love yourself. Then if you can do that and you believe it, then you can go and like the lax. Okay, everyone, that is your homework.
You don't need the lax. You like the lax.
Yeah, you don't need it, but you like it. It's like, I don't need chocolate, but I like it.
Exactly.
Thank you for coming on, Farina, and making the time. And thanks everyone for listening, and I will see you next week. Thanks for listening to Unselfishly Me. Follow us on Instagram at unselfishlyme, and check out our website www.unselfishlyme.com.